Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about CSS properties, and I'm just going to give you a basic introduction of what CSS is and how to link it and how to use it. For starters, we're going to be working in a slightly different manner. I'm going to show you how to create, let's say, folders for projects. So I'm just going to create a folder called Learn CSS. After you've created a folder, you can basically drag it to VS Code and then you can close the Finder, because that's all you need. I'm going to close this VS Code window and I'm just going to move this to the right. Now let's see where we are. So here we are, and now we can just create a new file by pressing this button or just basically pressing like Command N. I press Command N and I can say okay, save, Command S, and then index.css. Now this particular file gets created here. I actually just figured out that I didn't really want to create an index.css file. Instead, I actually wanted to create an index.html file. So I'm just going to rename that. I am going to create two folders. One is going to be the CSS folder. The other one is going to be an img folder, which is going to contain my images. And just to quickly show you guys again, you can basically create the HTML structure like this. One other great thing about VS Code is that you can actually quite easily create the whole structure or any sort of organization, like a lot of possible organizations, just by using the autocomplete functionality. So as mentioned previously, we need to have an HTML tag. After that, I'm going to say inside the HTML tag, I'm going to have a head tag. It also shows me what sort of structure it's going to create if I keep on doing this. Right beside the head tag, right after the head tag, not inside of it. If I want to create something inside, I'm going to use these brackets. If I want to create something outside of it or just right beside of it, I'm just going to use the plus. So as you can see, the stuff that gets generated here, and I can just then press a tab key. If I press the tab key, you can see the HTML tag wraps everything, all of the content around it. We have the head tag and then we have the body tag. That looks pretty good. Now, what else do we need to do? We can obviously similarly give the title. This is going to be Learn CSS Properties or something along those lines, whatever it may be. And after that, what we can obviously do here is we can open this index.html file here, and this is the Learn CSS Properties, as you can see there as well. We're going to give it a heading, Learn CSS Properties, just so it appears on the page as well. And now, as I've already created it, but just to show you guys, I already have the CSS folder. I'm going to, after I click the CSS folder, I'm going to create a CSS file, and I'm going to name it styles.css. Now I have the CSS file. The CSS file, like the HTML file, needs to have its own structure. And now, let's see. What we're going to do is we're going to link this CSS file, and as previously mentioned in one of the previous videos, we're going to link the CSS file in the head section. How do we do that? We basically create a link tag. After we do the link tag, it already automatically fills the rel style sheet. This basically tells the relationship of the linked documents. Basically, I'm linking a style sheet here, and now I need to go into the CSS folder and then just basically use the styles.css file. Now I have the CSS file linked. Now how does a person actually write basic CSS? As I've mentioned previously, CSS is a visual layer of styles over your HTML structure. That's basically what CSS is. Obviously there are different ways of explaining it, but that's my way that I just thought about right now. So that's what it is. And how do you actually write CSS? Similar to how you write HTML, where you have to open tags and then close them, so on and so forth. You need to follow a specific structure if you want to write CSS. So the structure is whatever tag you have here, whatever tag you have, whether it's the body tag, whether it's the h1 tag. Again, you don't really want to style any of the tags here. You primarily want to style the HTML tag. If you want, that's like the global tag, or any of the tags within the body or the body tag itself. Now if I want to say, hey, if I want to style the body tag, I can basically type the tag name here and I can open the curly brackets. Now open the curly brackets and then press enter. So that's going to format it like this, and anything that you write inside of it is going to be applied to the whole body tag. Now let's say I want to say the whole body should have a color of red. Now CSS is really simple like that, especially with some of the simple properties. It has a really simple structure to it. It has like really self-represented tags, self-represented properties as well, and the values as well. So I gave the body a color red, and if I refresh it, you can see obviously the color is being respected here. I can change it to yellow, and that works fine as well. So yeah, the text color is changing. This color property actually targets the text color instead of the background color. So if you want to give a background color, I can say BGC. So that's one way of just a shortcut to give like a background color, or you can basically just do a BG, and then you can give a yellow background to it if you want. So as you can see, it gives a yellow background, and it's like really easy. So imagine like you just want to add like color, you just basically press C and press tab, it just automatically fills it for you. Similarly, you want to add like BG, you just press BG and then tab, it adds it for you. So VS Code, again, as mentioned, is really good at auto completion, and it's really going to save your time. Now, let's say if you want to alter this H1 tag, how do we do that? Well, similar to the body tag, we just say H1. And we're going to say, hey, I really want this text size to be bigger. Now, if I type text size, like there are like different properties, but this isn't the property that we're looking for. We're looking for a property named font size. And we can obviously press FS and then just do this, and it's going to just select it. And I can say, okay, it's going to be large. If I press large, obviously, it's not necessarily large in the sense of where it used to be, but it's still doing something. I can obviously give it some specific pixels. I can say 50 pixels, and as you can see, it expands. I can say 200 pixels, and it expands even more. So that's one way of giving a font size. I don't really like this serif font. By serif, what I basically, sorry, not serif, but basically I mean with serif font is that it has these edges, and that's like what basically differentiates serif fonts from sans serif. I want to use a sans serif font because that's what you usually see in websites, and I can do that by saying font minus family, and then I can say sans serif. So there are a lot of fonts already that a system already has, and if you say a sans serif, you can consider sans serif to be a family, and it's just gonna pick any font that exists in the user system to display fonts of a similar nature, for example, of a sans serif nature, which are going to be like this. They're not going to have those fancy edges to them. So that's one way of applying like different properties. Obviously, each specific property in CSS properties are definitely complex. So you have like position properties, you have display properties, and you have a lot of these different properties that are really important. And we'll get to those in a later video, but I just wanted to, in this video, like my primary purpose was to show you how to create a CSS file, how to link it, and how to start writing CSS. Ideally, we're going to cover some of these properties if needed in a separate video as well. But if there's any specific thing that you'd like to know about a specific property, or a specific video on any of the properties that you find difficult to deal with, then do let me know, and we'll definitely try to tackle that in one of our next videos. So take care.